Hare Krishna, welcome to Bhagavadgita. Thank you for your time, your encouragement, your motivation, and your prayers. You can all very easily be watching the latest Bollywood or Hollywood blockbuster or the latest cricket match. Instead, to believe that there's a higher meaning to life, there's a higher purpose to life. I congratulate you and I thank you for giving me company. What is the most important thing anybody can do in their life? The most important thing anybody can do in their life, in their human life, is steady consciousness. What makes you happy? What makes you sad? How does the mind work? What's the meaning of life? There are a lot of hungry people in the world. People are hungry with their stomach. It's very easy to feel the hunger of the stomach. If somebody is hungry, you give them a plate of nice biryani and nice rice and chapati and bread. They're happy. There is also the hunger of the heart, the hunger of the mind to find a purpose and a meaning. That is incredibly hard to fill. Lord Krishna, via Bhagavadgita, fills that gap. So the most important thing anybody can do is study consciousness. Study how the mind works and how consciousness works. So Krishna does a wonderful job of analyzing the mind and consciousness in Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter 4th and 5th slokas. In the 4th sloka, 7th chapter 4th sloka, he says, Bhumi apo analo vayur kam manobuddha evacha ahankaram iti yam me binna prakriti ashtata. The material world has composed of earth, fire, water, air, ether, and then this is something which our science also understands at some level. Not ether, but there was talk of ether in science around 100 years ago, but nobody talks about it anymore. Actually, they do talk about ether in a very roundabout way in the quantum theory. And then the mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are 8 components. And then Krishna goes on to point out that consciousness, the soul, is not there in any of this. And that is what he is saying. Apareyam itastu anyam prakritim viddhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yaya idam dharete jagat. Yaya idam dharete jagat. Besides the 8 elements, O Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. So Krishna is telling us that our ability to think, human beings, animals and plants, are superior to material nature. Now let's also analyze our modern day prevailing scientific theories. See, in our science, we have no clue how consciousness emerges. There are a lot of theories. Unfortunately, I find most of them broken. If you take just a Newtonian model, I'm sorry, this is going to be a little bit technical on the physics side. The summary is that in our modern physics or our modern science, we have no theory of how the mind works. We have no theory of how consciousness works. For example, if you ask a psychologist, how is the mind working? They'll say it depends on biochemistry. If you ask the biochemistry people, they'll say it depends on chemistry. If you ask the chemistry people, they'll say it depends on physics. And if you ask the physics people, when it comes to quantum mechanics and Schrodinger's cat and all these things, they say it depends on the observer, the mind. So firstly, please recognize that our modern explanations in science for the mind and consciousness are going in circles, and unfortunately our big professors are not really getting it. You could be a professor teaching superconductivity PhD students at Princeton University for 50 years and still get away with not having to think what it all means in the big picture. Our physics has become more about reading more and more about less and less, and practically no single person knows what it all means, and even big professors try to learn about areas which they don't know by reading popular science magazines, which actually dumb down people into a false sense of sleep about what it all means. I'm not saying I know what it all means, but I'm suggesting you to take a careful view of physics and don't get misguided into thinking that consciousness emerges from a bunch of atoms. If you take one ball, it has no consciousness. By the way, you must celebrate, if you're in touch with any of the Indian Hindu philosophy, that they had a very sane model for consciousness. The people who devised the philosophy had a very sane model of consciousness 5,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. Timeless wisdom of India. Please check it out. There's nothing in the world like the timeless wisdom of India. Nahi gnanena sadrisham pavitram vidyate tat kalena yoga samsiddha kalena atmani vindati. I think 4th chapter 39th sloka of Bhagavadgita. By the way, the earlier sloka which I read, which explains that living beings are the superior energy of God, is 7th chapter 5th sloka. I'll read it again for you. Apareyam itastu anyam prakritim viddhi me param jivabhutam mahabaho yaya idam dharyate jagat. Living beings are superior to matter and inferior to God. So, talking about consciousness, let's stick to Newton's laws. A single ball does not have consciousness, and in the Newtonian worldview, the world is basically 10 to the power 100 balls put together. Let's say so. If you have one ball, it's not conscious. If you have two balls are not conscious. If you have 100 balls, they're not conscious. If you have n balls, we have no model of how consciousness will emerge when you move from n to n plus 1. So, practically we have no clue in the Newtonian physics model where consciousness is coming from when you have 10 to the power 100 atoms. Unfortunately, our big Nobel laureates, our big professors are saying that consciousness magically emerges when matter attains certain level of organization. It might be true, but for us to really consider that view, they should at least be able to propose some model for how consciousness emerges, and they could not. By the way, if you are interested in consciousness, I would recommend that you read Mr. Henry Stamp. He is a professor in Berkeley. You will like reading his stuff. And at some point of time, he read Bhagavadgita and Srimad Bhagavatam very carefully, and he said it is self-consistent and there is nothing which I can prove wrong there. Whole of science runs on falsifiability, and the Vedic literature of India, which is the underlying basis of Hinduism, it has not been falsified. So, in Newtonian physics, we have no idea how consciousness emerges. The other prevailing view today is quantum mechanics, and of course the newer versions of string theory and all those things. One must recognize that quantum mechanics and Newtonian physics, they are violently contradicting each other, and our hopes to find a unified theory, the grand unified theory, we have not really made any credible progress on it, and at this point we have no idea what's going on. And the sad state of physics today is the big scientists are saying the world just exploded out of nowhere. Here is a particle at the fingertip of my pencil. Be careful, that's going to explode into a big universe. If I can say that, well, I can say Krishna will just manifest from this pencil, right? These are no different. Anyway, it's not trying to poke holes. This makes it important for us to consider alternative theories of existence of God. Pascal had this thing called Pascal's wager. He said, you know what, I don't know whether God exists or not, but let me assume that God exists. I will live a pious life. Hey, by the way, the happiness of living a pious life is very, very high. If you look at the Darwin's theory is talking about evolution of the body. It is not talking about evolution of consciousness. Darwin's theory has a blind spot. It does not have a model of consciousness. And it is said that Darwin's theory is inspired from Padma Purana. Padma Purana is actually one of my favorite books. Please read it. And if you look at our modern efforts to understand what is life, we have a lot of theories, but nothing is verifiable. For example, there is this person by name Craig Venter. He used to be the head of the Genomics Institute or the Genomics Research Center, TGIC. TGIC has spent around $2 billion researching genomics. And Craig Venter sometimes plays God and sometimes he is more honest. And he sometimes says, I can create artificial life, but he has not demonstrated how to create artificial life. Specifically, there is a big research paper. There is a flaw in the research paper, which is he tried to generate artificial life, but what he took was he did not take carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen as elements and combine them to form life. He took things like formaldehyde, acetic acid, this and that, which are already coming via from organisms via organic stuff, and then synthesized a cell out of it. But he reused the cytoplasm and he reused a lot of things, and he actually is on the record saying that I did not create artificial life, I just transformed life from one to another. So today in the modern research, we have no reason to believe that life can originate just from matter. And if you think of it, this is also a violation of second law of thermodynamics. Matter cannot self-organize. That is the reason why you need to posit that there is something beyond matter. Actually, sometimes philosophy can get you entangled. The religious people say matter is not the ultimate reality, and therefore you need to have a God. The question is, who created God? The religious people say God created himself, and the atheists don't like this because this is the point which was made by Carl Sagan in the famous Cosmos series. In other case, I'm so happy that you're hanging out with me to listen to all of these things and not going after Bollywood and Hollywood things. It's awesome. Watch Cosmos. It's a nice series. It improves your level of thinking. And Carl Sagan makes this point. He says, look, if you're going to say matter is not the ultimate answer, but it is God which is the ultimate answer, and if God creates himself, why don't you just say that matter is the ultimate cause? Why don't you just stop at matter? The reason you cannot stop at matter is because matter does not self-organize. I have this nice picture of Lord Jagannath. I have this nice house I am sitting under. If you live to 1,000 years or 10,000 years, this house will degenerate, and it will not degenerate into a better and more interesting picture. It will not degenerate into a better and more well organized house. It will become haphazard, rubble. Matter does not self organize, and we see that there is a lot of order in the world. There is a lot of order in the law of physics, g m1 m2 by r square, some constant q1 q2 by r square, etc. There is a lot of uniformity in the laws of physics, and there is a lot of uniformity in our life, and matter by itself will degenerate, and that is the reason to believe that there is something which is higher than matter. That is a reason to posit that there is a God who controls matter and who also controls the living beings. This is the point which again Bhagavadgita discusses in 16th chapter 9th sloka. Let me find the verse to read it to you. It's actually 16th chapter 8th sloka. Asatyam apratishtam te jagata huranishwaram aparaspara sambhutam kim anyat kama haitukam. They say that the world is unreal, it has no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and no other cause than lust. If you think of it, sex desire is alright, but civilization does not run on sex desire. We put in so much effort to bring our kids properly because we do it as a matter of duty, as a matter of higher principle, not out of lust. And whole societies are built not on lust. Unfortunately, our modern society today is becoming more and more lust based, and we are resembling exactly how the the Romans were at the peak of Roman Empire. This is not good for the civilization. So please think about this. Please develop a higher taste. Please help people around you develop a higher taste. Please read up about Einstein's theory of relativity. Please read up about the mind. More importantly, please meditate. Please do yoga. Chant mantras, and you will see that your intelligence improves. That is the proof. The proof that a pudding is good, a cake is good, is in tasting it. There is a lot of taste in selfless service, yoga, meditation. Please realize it for yourself. Please help other people. I bet you that a lot of people will benefit from this video in your circle. Maybe somebody is having a depression, and maybe this video will help them come out of the depression. So please share this video on your groups. Thank you for helping me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's thank Lord Krishna for giving us this wonderful wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. It's timeless wisdom. One day, I'll also talk about how the goals of science and religion are the same. Ahameva asam agre na anya sat asat param paschat ya avasishyeta sa asmi aham. One should see the cause of universe face to face. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 9th chapter, 33rd sloka. And one must search for this truth at all times, at all places. That is what the physicists should look for. That is what the religious people should look for. That is what the atheists should look for. Thank you. Hare Krishna.